So today is procurement. Procurement in Malaysian public sector. You have any idea on the word procurement? Or the simple word? Procurement is basically right, involving purchasing and outsourcing of some of the government activities and services. Okay, generally is a topic where sometimes it has can be an issue generally. And I think previously some students, one that was asking on the procurements and purchasing of supply, to how to make sure that when government spend, they spend with a value for money. Okay, so we try to discuss in that manner. Okay, it's a very broad topic. Okay, the lecture content: procurement objective and scope, and then procurement framework, procurement nation government, procurement policies, principles, categories of procurements. That is in related to public sector. Procurement regimes and e-procurement, that's practice. And lastly, procurement issues and best practice. Okay, the definition: purchasing goods and services from the private sector providers or vendors, generally outsourcing. I think definitely is a way to get the benefit of the efficiency and effectiveness of private sector service providers, just like us consumers. Okay, we get from companies, so they had that level of efficiency. So similarly, in the case of government, if government would have to provide all type of services, okay, then their size would be very big. Okay. Traditionally, if you look at, let's say, the construction of the road, okay, the construction of the roads, in, like, let's say in the 70s or in the 80s even still. So you can see if those who work on the roads, basically they build, constructing the roads, they are all under government payroll, okay, that time. But nowadays it's all basically companies or private sectors or government suppliers. So that's an example, okay. Scope cover a wide range of activities, from stationaries to construction of new facilities, maintenance services, and training. Okay, and there's definitely others. So maintenance services, I think, quite a big job as well. Okay, being outsourced to a private sector. So if you look at government buildings, okay, and they need a lot of maintenance. Even recently, with the budget, government provide some allocation to revamp or to revive or renovate buildings and facilities for public universities. Here's an example. Right, why procurement is subject to public scrutiny? Okay, as I mentioned earlier, that I think in a way why this topic procurement become a separate topic in PSA. Right, I think basically this issue, because of it becoming a budget issue, a government spending issue. I think that is why it become a topic in PSA. Yeah? Right, huge government budget on procurements. If you look at OPEX, that are part of that is for procurements. If you look at development budgets, okay,
Sir.
Yes, okay, everybody here? 40. So we have 3 students still not joining yet. Anyway, we'll take the Tenants. Okay, come back. Okay, why procurement is subject to public scrutiny? Okay, because the amount quite big, right? So that's why the issue of to make sure that the spending is optimal, efficiency, and how it's spent, and the type of services that will be developed. Okay, must be closely related to what is needed by the country. Since public funds are involved in financing public procurements, there's a question of accountability. I think that's always being raised. Particularly, it becomes also a subject for the audit, okay, by Auditor General. Okay, pretty much on the performance audit, okay, is also closely related to procurements. Government procurement is a market that attracts the interest of businessmen, including multinational companies. Yeah, definitely. There are a group of business entities that basically following government expenditures, okay, or government projects or government contracts, because the amount is huge. If you talk about, let's say, recently, okay, we talk about, 1 MDB, right? The other is, I think if you look at constructions of the roads, you take billions of dollars as an example. Government in developing countries have often been accused of not making the necessary purchases or procurements in the most efficient manner possible, right? So that's why, I mean, certain control need to be in place to make sure that procurement is important, okay, because to expand the level of public services, but it's just that to make sure it should be undertaken in the best possible manner. Right, the framework agency involved, okay, if you look at all level of agencies are involved in procurements at the federal, state, as well as local governments, government departments, agencies. Okay, and for constructions in particular, okay, you have that because I think big projects generally related to facilities, public facilities, and the main agency is Public Work Department, as well as CIDB, monitoring the construction projects. Local authorities as well. The legal and regulatory framework, okay, there is an act, Government Contract Act 1949, right, providing the mandate for the governments to get involved in the procurements, Financial Procedures Act, as well as the Treasury instructions regarding the procurements. Tender process, I think these are one of the areas that is widely known to make sure that the government will get the right quality as well as competitive prices, okay, through a tender process. Okay, so one of them. And also, nowadays it's through e-procurements.
Excuse me, sir. There's
Yes.
another one.
Another one. Okay, still acquiring. Oh, okay. Yeah, the definition. Thank you, Brother Ahmad Hazmi. Okay, now I continue. Okay, procurement in Malaysian government. Okay, there is a Treasury Division, Procurement Division, responsible in handling the government procurements, issuing directives on procurement procedures for government and relevant department and agencies. I think from time to time there must be improvement or way of doing how the procurement process need to be undertaken. So definitely procurement is under the Treasury. Procurement policies, okay, I think this is still relevant. To stimulate the growth of local industries through the maximum utilization of local material and resources, right? So you can see that there are two twin pillars. So of course, in the one hand, government try to get the services, at the same time to motivate the local economy, right? So maximum utilization of local material and resources. Okay, so the suppliers should be local, and the resources, okay, including human capital, definitely should be drawn from local market, local labor market. Okay, so that's the government policy. Second, to encourage and support the involvement of Bumi Putra entrepreneurs in line with the nation's aspiration to create Bumi Putra commercial industrial community. All right, I think that's a general. I think the involvement of Bumi Putra, the opportunities given to Bumi Putras. Okay, you can. I think the source is provided in the Constitution itself, as well as government policy, particularly from 1970 when the government introduced the new economic policy. I think you know that the new economic policy, NEP, was introduced in 1970. As a result, I think one of the critical event that happened was the racial riot in 1969. That's how important it is to make sure that the social stability, again, it leads to economic stability as well as political stability. So I think the balance, the social balance in this country is very important. Okay, but everybody, I think now, you know, respecting that they call it social contracts, very important because it's become an integral part of the stability of the country. And one of them definitely is to revive or to get more Bumi Putras involved in economic activities at that time. Okay, so definitely this policy still continued up to today. To increase and enhance the capabilities of local institutions and industries via transfer of technology and expertise. Okay, so transfer of technology, definitely procurement can play a vital role. To stimulate and promote service-oriented local industries such as freight and insurance. Okay, to accelerate economic growth, whereby government procurement is used as a tool to achieve socio-economic development objective. Okay, and I think that is very clear, as mentioned earlier, where fiscal expenditures is basically one of the major economic expenditures for the economy. Particularly in this case, is Malaysia.
Sir?
Yes.
There's one student is asking permission to enter the class.
Sure.
All right, thank you.
Okay, question. Sir, is procurement unit will only be in government agencies? How about private entities exercise? Okay, just now when I say procurement here is the unit in the treasury, yeah? In the treasury, basically monitoring the procurement process. But of course, the guidance and the framework and procedures will be will be followed and must be complied by the government agencies. Okay, later on we'll see some of the process. And because treasury guideline must be complied with by all government agencies. Okay, with regard to private entities, I think that's common, isn't it? You have purchasing manager or procurement managers. Okay, so both are important. I think in a way it's similar. Procurement managers in private entities also are very important manager. And if you look at about corruption, corruption not only for the government entities, corruption also can happen in private sector. In procurement, the risk of corruption is very high in the procurement process. Okay, so there must, all control should be in place to ensure that the companies get competitive services. Okay, procurement principles. Of course, our discussion here on procurement is skewed towards accounting. Okay, because procurement itself, logistics is all have their own specific areas, but we discuss in the context of accounting. Okay. Okay, procurement principles, public accountability. Okay, they must take that into account. Okay, that's why I think that will be translated into all their process and procedures. Value for money, okay, to achieve economic efficiency, effectiveness. Fair dealing, okay, so every suppliers should be have equal opportunities to bid for the projects. Transparency, okay, so the costing and the details, the pricing. I think that's why some government agencies, I think even if you look at UIA, those bidders for the projects, and also the winners. I think they display on their notice board last time. Okay, I'm not sure now, still in practice, but if you go to the finance unit, they will show the bidders and I think the amount, if I'm not mistaken. In a way, okay, in a way. The other, open and fair competition, because for one project, many bidders are basically involved or participate. So those who can definitely, in the eyes of the government, they must award the projects to the most capable and at the most competitive price. Okay, but it doesn't mean the cheapest. It doesn't mean the cheapest, because if it's the cheapest, but the quality of work is compromised, so it's not fair as well. Okay. Categories of procurements. Okay, there are 3 types that have been prescribed, okay, by the Treasury: works, supplies, and services. Okay, so look at works, contracts of constructions and engineering activities involving infrastructure and structures such as building, airports, roads, highways, dam, drainage services. Okay, so I think works basically services. We look at construction, it's construction services. Of course, together with that, definitely you need materials as well, and equipments. Second, supplies. The supply of raw, intermediate, or finished goods and product for any activity of users. Construction materials, okay, can be supplies. Food products, uniforms, okay. If you imagine government, in the case of government, supply of uniforms, because there are so many services are basically using uniforms. Army, police, okay, the fire brigades, so hundreds of thousands of them. Okay, so you can imagine, okay, the kind of supply that is needed. Vehicles, okay, so if you look at all governments, they need vehicles, good vehicles, and definitely including the defense. Okay, equipments, spare parts, furniture, as an example. The third one is services, engagement of manpower, expertise, and consultants in the area of feasibility studies, research, designing, survey management. Okay, can be management consultants as well. Okay, so private sector consultants or management services can be engaged. I think a lot of these being at agency level as well as at the government, at the cabinet level. So that is why I think sometimes for the economic consultancy, government sometimes they use a very top, very investment banks, global investment banks as their advisors. Repair, maintenance, and cleaning services are minor activities under this category. Okay, I mean one of them. I think the word minor shouldn't be there. Next is procurement regime. This is how the procurement process to award the projects or the contracts to selected suppliers. Okay, there is a central purchase. That one is definitely at the government level. Direct purchase, quotation, tender, direct negotiation. At the agency level, you can see these 3: direct purchase, quotation, and tender. Okay, and the direct negotiation at the bottom, this one is generally at the government level, where at the executive level. Agency level, normally up to these 3 methods: direct purchase, quotation, and tender. So you look at the central purchase for common user items to promote local products and develop vendors. So this is another way to say that it's a big bulk purchase, so they can get a better discounts and good prices. I think this can be done at ministry level, okay, where all this can be distributed to various ministries and departments. But for agency, if they have the autonomy to purchase, okay, so that's why they can exercise these 3 methods of procurements: either direct purchase, quotations, and tender. So if you look at these 3, direct purchase, quotation, and tender, you look at the amount. So if you look at direct purchase, the maximum value is 50,000 as an example. And then within the agency itself, they can develop their own policies as well. Okay, for instance, like in URA, the procurements purchase that can be done by the director as well and the dean, the amount will be different. Okay, I think in the case of URA, IIUM, the dean can purchase up to 20,000. Okay, so that is direct purchase. Quotation mean direct purchase. They can choose directly a specific supplier, okay, that is registered to the agency or to the government. But of course, every suppliers want to provide their services to the government agencies must register with the Treasury. Okay, so direct purchase. So all of you, I mean, if you have your own companies or business, I think definitely government is one of potential customers. So you might make sure that you register your business with the Treasury before you can register with the government agencies. And okay, so direct purchase means they buy directly, so they choose directly specific suppliers. Okay, quotation. So if you look at this, work above 20,000 up to 50,000, and then there is 5 quotations. So quotations, unlike direct purchase is only one supplier that is being requested to quote. But for quotation, they will request at least 5 quotations. I think this is a quite general practice. So 5 quotations or 3 to 5 quotations. Okay, and so basically they will ask, invite 5 suppliers to submit their quotations, price quotations. So in the price quotations, generally what government agencies are doing, they provide the specifications of the products and services together with the BQ, okay, bill of quantity that translate what is needed in terms of specifications of the product and services. And then they will bid, they will basically approach specific suppliers to get their quotations, okay, price quotations. And so minimum is 5, okay, in the case of quotation. So out of these 5, definitely they will choose one of them. Okay, ideally it should be the cheapest as well as quality. Okay, so definitely the agency must decide. Maybe they have even decided by the budget holder, or if they want to have a committee, they should have a committee, okay, a procurement committee. But generally, quotation is decided by the budget holder. Right, and then the second is tender process. Okay, as an example there, the maximum amount is 500,000. Okay, local tenders must be registered with the government. Foreign tender can be invited. All right, so you can see that the amount is, I think it's just an example. It can be hundreds of millions in the case of tender, depending on the autonomy given to the agency. Then of course, because of the amount is huge, then the tender process is quite rigorous. Okay, quite rigorous in a way that, so secrecy, confidentiality, okay, and make sure that between the companies that involved in the bid, they are not aware of, they don't have any information I mean about the tender that is being made by other companies. Okay, all this to make sure that the government get competitive price and with the quality of the products and services. Okay, and I think the process is quite rigorous. This one is the tender also will be published. So that should be published. The invitation to bid will be published in the local newspapers. I think that is required as well. That's why you can see in the newspapers from time to time invitation to tender. Okay, so because and also tender is not everybody can involve, because they have to buy the tender documents, and tender document is quite expensive, depending on the size of the projects. Okay, but it can to purchase the tender document itself, it can involve thousands of dollars. Okay, because basically if it is a construction projects, okay, I think the document for BQ is very thick. How that basically they can so that they have enough information to submit their bids. Okay, and lastly, direct negotiations, high value procurements. This one is not be done at the agency, but be done is done at the government level, okay, at the cabinet level. So that's why you can see from time to time you can see there is a direct award procurements by the executive or by the Prime Minister. Urgent or few reputable suppliers or contractors. This also can be related to sometime globally. If you look at certain services, okay, there are global players. Okay, for instance, like airports. Okay, for airports, there are global players that can construct airports. So only these global players, should be involved in the construction of the projects. Okay, because if you talk about airports, so airports means international airlines will land their planes at the airport, okay, on the runway. So that's why you need to create confidence. The government concerned must use the reputable contractors, global contractors, okay, with their network of suppliers. Okay, that's why sometimes this engagement needs a high level of procurement process, okay, at the top level. Right. Okay, any question? Any question? Okay, all right. So no question, I'll continue. Okay, now definitely government now in terms of procurement process, they use e-procurements. So by right, it should all the tender distributions of information should be done through online. Okay, so there is a specific e-perolehan, they call it e-perolehan, procurement. In Malay, procurement is perolehan. There is a word used by the government. So maybe we can have a look in the website, on the website. Okay, these are managed by the Treasury. Yeah? Okay, so you can see all information. Okay, have a quick look about e-perolehan. Of course, if you are the registered suppliers, you can have login and others. Circulars on contracts, e-procurements. I think now because all payments, claims and payments also are done through online. So in a way, this will improve selection process. Okay. So you can see that even there is a disciplinary and complaints options. There's no more module on this website. Okay, have a look if you want to know a bit more details. Definitely procurements, government procurements, it's good for you to know. These modules enable the government to carry out the following activities: plan and expenditure and procurement, search, select, evaluate, and appoint suppliers. Okay. Creating and managing government contracts. Okay, government contracts, one, of course, awarding the contracts. Okay, the other is execution of the contracts. So the progress. Okay, because this one is, let's say the government award construction contracts, right, to the main developer, a private company. Okay, private company developer, okay, as an example, Johaki, okay, can be UEM, right? Ahmad Zaki, okay, these are major Bumi Putra contractors, okay. There are also private sectors as well. I mean, non-Bumi Putras. So that's why, I mean, once they award the contracts, so they must make sure, because with the contract, there is amount of contract. Let's say Ahmad Zaki is awarded 100 million, okay. So that's why the milestones, project milestones, progress need to be adhered to. You must remember, because time in the contracts, normally time is critical. It's the essence. Time is money. So if you want to see time is money in the contracts, procurement contracts. So that's why documentation is very important. Progress report is very important. Certification process and all that must be in place. That's why in procurement contracts, one of the key areas is something that you can develop your skills is documentation. Okay, so that is why it's very important, because who caused the delay, there is a penalty. Okay, so penalty for delay is very expensive. Huh? Because they will be counted by daily. Sometimes interest also will be charged on that as well. So who is accountable? Who caused the delay will pay, either the clients or the companies. So that's why documentation is important. Negotiation, because sometimes progress can be due to the clients. Okay, progress delay can also due by the companies or the contractors or the developers. So who caused the delay? So based on the documentation. That's why negotiations and all that is key, yeah, to make sure that they can achieve. Because if you look at in the perspective of the contractors, they try to maximize the value of their contracts. Okay, that is why I think Malaysian government is quite good in that to control the cost. Okay, if they project that the cost should be 6 billion, okay, to construct, let's say the airports, right? So 6 billion would be the cap. Is the variation order or the variations from the value of the contracts can be somehow controlled. But if you look at in other countries, sometimes constructions projects, okay, no limit. Okay, maybe the starting point is 1 billion, but they can end up to 6 billion or 10 billions. So that because it's a public utilities, because the work of construction companies always they try to expand the contracts. Okay, it's quite normal. It's quite common strategies. That's why okay, the tender documents, all that must be complete. Okay, so if they that's why I think you can read further these issues. If they want to provide the BQ, the drawing, the design, so all these drawing and design must be complete, because all loopholes for them to complete the facilities, these are the source of variations of orders, and then it also means will be extra cost to the government. Okay, so these are important areas in the case of procurements. I mean, at least you get a brief idea. Okay, issues in procurements. Okay, weaknesses in procurement. Purchases, they are not sourced based on best value. Okay, this also, in other words, they don't get the good quality as well as they don't get a good price. Equipment received are not utilized or underutilized over purchases of equipments, right? So it's very key when the agencies or government, they purchase all these services must be utilized to provide the services. Okay, I think in Malay sometimes we call this Gajah Putih, White Elephant Project. Okay, so a project being awarded, facilities being constructed, but at the end there is no very minimal use. Okay, so for minimal use means they cannot provide the services, they cannot use the facilities. So this need to be avoided by the government agencies because their resources are very limited. Okay, equipment supplied not in accordance to original specifications, poor quality, frequent breakdowns, obsolete, non-systematic or improper storage. Okay, so I think that's very obvious. That's why if you look at original specifications, this also can be an issue. Okay, original specifications. Okay, of course, government normally for procurements, they use the work of specialists. Okay, so let's say they want to buy a submarine. Okay, so how to develop, or maybe defense, or maybe in if you look at technology. Okay, let's say now we're having a new technology, IR 4.0, or maybe now we move to 5G. Yeah? So if government want to purchase all those technology, so they need to develop specifications. So who can develop their specifications? Definitely the private sector consultants as well, right? And then for the government to be able to evaluate, so all these process need to be in place to make sure that when they place the specifications toward the contracts, so the specifications of the BQ must be complete. Okay, if any loopholes in that, if they award, there's a potential variation order where it would cost government more. Okay. Shortage of experience of officers, definitely, yeah. Because generally, if you talk about procurements, particularly when the equipments are very unique or it's very new in terms of technology, then the capabilities of government officials can be very limited. Okay, that's why partnership, work in collaboration with the private sector consultants, experts, okay, very key. Yeah? Non-compliance to rules, regulations, and policies. Equipment procured at a much higher cost than market value improper payment made for equipment is not supplied. Okay, so I think these sounds like the audit findings based on Auditor General findings. Okay, this in the case of for the procurements, generally these are some of the issues raised. Payment made but maintenance job are not carried out. Okay, so by right, payments should only be made if the services been certified in accordance to the contracts. Okay, insufficient budget for maintenance. Weaknesses and irregularities involving work and service procurements. Delay in signing the contracts, work done or services rendered not in accordance with the original scope, low quality on works or services rendered, okay, unsatisfactory work maintenance, payment made for work, services not carried out or not rendered, okay, slow work progress, abandoned projects. These are some challenges. I mean, from time to time, I think Auditor General will highlight all these problems. It's happening across government agencies. Underlying reasons, lack of proper planning, lack of transparency in financial information system and contracting operations, lack of alignment of responsibilities among key officials in managing awards and oversight of the contracts, because one of the contract is awarded, so need to be monitored. So who monitor? There are two sides. One is financial, the other is technical. Okay, both must be equally good to make sure that the contract executions is efficient. Accountability and performance requirements are not clearly spelled. Okay, so what is responsible for what? Okay, as I said, okay, that's why the work of the government to make sure that their contract is complete. Lack of ethics among the procurement workforce, lack of skills and training of procurement workforce. Okay, if in the negotiation, okay, I mean knowledge is very key. Okay, those who can negotiate that there is a need of expanding the projects, and definitely okay, knowledge is key. Yeah, because I think the contractors try to maximize the value of their contracts. It is the job of the government officials to make sure that if they want to propose for variation order, must be justified and must be needed, okay, for the projects. Of course, I mean practically, okay, all it's very rare that you can find BQ is complete, okay. But the issue is it shouldn't have that big gaps. And this one, the other is the client, okay, the government itself. They cannot just demand from the private sector. Of course, additional demand we did beyond the scope of the contracts. Okay, definitely the private sector will entertain because it's an additional job for them. Lack of guidance for managing the contracts, especially cost management. Okay, can be a potential challenge to manage the costs. Okay, procurement best practices. Okay, proper planning to determine what to purchase, when, why, and how. Okay, so including market study as well as feasibility studies. Ensuring that budget is located for the procurement categories. Okay, there is budget for it. Ensure that procurement method used is in accordance to the threshold value limit. Okay, the number 3 is basically as you look at the procurement regime just now, that based on the amount. Some can be used direct quotation. Of course, direct quotation, the benefit of direct quotation is speed. Okay, because they don't have to wait for 5 quotations, or they don't have to go through tender process, because tender process is quite lengthy because the decision is made by the tender committee. Okay, so where they have to decide, they have to listen all the presentations from all the shortlisted contractors before the award is being made. Okay, so quite a lengthy process, but this procurement process need to be respected by the respective budget holders and government agencies, including the controlling officers, okay, to make sure that, because these are example of best practice as well. Quotation notice is clear and complete, okay, because you have to invite the private sector for quotation. Opening quotation committee must be appointed in writing, okay, so must be appointed, and definitely members of the tendering committee, they must be independent from the suppliers. Okay, there shouldn't be any relationships that can create conflict of interest. Proper maintenance of all procurement and contract files. Okay, so that it can be subject for scrutiny. either by the Public Account Committee, by the audit, by the internal audit, okay, so them by the management for the monitoring. Enhancing the knowledge and skill in handling procurements, conducting periodical trainings, I think that is a must. And including job rotation. I think this is also part of internal control, right? For job rotations to make sure that segregations of duties are fully respected. Enhance the work system and capability of personnel. Okay, so that it is appropriate with the value of procurement of the agencies. Okay, there is a procurement units to make sure the efficiency. The internal auditors must play their role. Okay, as mentioned just now. All ministries, departments, and agencies must ensure that all information relating to procurement must be updated. Okay, so because Treasury from time to time they issue the circulars. So what happened is when Treasury issue the circulars for the agency to endorse their adoption. Okay, they adopt so that all the managers within the agency will adopt those circulars. Okay, will follow those circulars. So the agency, they must adopt these circulars for them to follow, so that their local managers will be able to follow or comply with the direction given by the Treasury. Okay, procurement audit is conducted by the internal audit. Okay, to make sure that the contracts has been adhered to provide assurance that procurement and contracting activities and process are administered with due diligence and comply with the relevant government policies, to ensure that good works and services can and will continuously perform to satisfaction. So in other words, to make sure that the contracts, okay, the services provided or the materials supplied or equipment supplied following the specifications. Okay, so there is no issues of when all these equipments are in place, actually they are not following the specifications. Okay, so how to make sure that there is no gap? So internal audit function is very important. Effective procurement system. A procurement regulatory framework should address all government contracts regardless of the funding sources. Okay, before that, I show these bridges. Okay, it's an example of government procurements. What are these bridges, most likely? Is it in Malaysia or in different country?
Different country.
But I think we have these similar bridges, isn't it?
Yes.
So most likely for what? For highway, elevated highways, as well as for what? See, in KL we have this, huh?
LRT, MRT.
Yeah, exactly, for LRT, MRT. Because that was also one of the huge government projects, the LRT projects from Sungai Buloh to Kajang, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, it was the allocation given was around 36 billion. Okay, and definitely there's another projects, huge projects for the refinery, Pengerang refinery was 120 billion. Okay, so definitely procurement process need to be respected to make sure that all this with value for money. Okay, transparency is important to ensure trust and confidence in the procurement system. Effective and fair procedural rules are important in open competitive biddings. Okay, so as I said, the bidders need, okay, the information that is provided shouldn't be leaked to other, because if the bidding of other bidders, the information being leaked out, okay, then the other bidders who receive that information, they can definitely manage. They can provide same level of quality with the lower price. Okay, so they have more potential to win the bidding. So that's why secrecy, confidentiality is very important to make sure that government get better value of money. So that's why the officials involving the procurements, okay, they shouldn't be have direct contact with all the bidders, so that conflict of interest will not be raised. A government official engaged in purchasing should be independent from vendors, bidders, prospective bidders, interested parties, politicians, and political appointees. So how to be able to do that? Okay, so the agency, the system control within the agencies must be in place to make sure that these are. But most important, definitely, iman and taqwa to control this, because internal value more is the best control for all this. Why do we need transparent procurement system? Transparent system promote efficiency. The threat of corruption is minimized. Transparency encourage a more competitive environment, attain value for money in public service provisions. Okay. Right, so the procurement in Malaysia can be outsourcing, can be privatization also. Okay, can be part of procurements. Competitive tendering. Okay, competitive tendering not specifically in Malaysia. Okay, it was in the UK. Right, still the ability of the government services, local government, if I'm not mistaken, to make sure that they get value for money. Yeah, I mean good services. Okay, the other one is public-private partnership, okay, under PSA, right? So this topic we'll discuss as a separate lecture. So the following lecture will cover this PSA. So by next week, inshallah, on Monday. Okay, class on Wednesday will be postponed. Next week Wednesday. Because you can prepare, you can use the time for your assignment, preparing for the midterm. Okay, but on Monday, inshallah, we still have class. Right? So yeah, so you look at this. What picture is this?
UAE.
Yeah. So big tender, big procurements to develop the facilities. I can't remember. At the end, it was that time what, 3 billion or 5 billion? I can't remember, but involved billions of dollars to develop IIUM facilities. Okay, so we end. So with that, I end the lecture. So, is there any question? Sir, who will be in charge to ensure that service provider meet completion deadline? If they do their job efficiently. Why MR2 took so many years to complete? Well, you have 3 questions there. Okay, who will be in charge to ensure the service provider meet the progress? Okay, the agency who award the contracts. Okay, if you are IIUM, award the contract. So IIUM, the procurement, or in IIUM definitely we have development unit. So development unit will monitor the progress. The progress here means before, including before they make any payment, progress payments, they must make sure that the progress is in accordance with the contracts, including the quality, including all the specifications. That's why, you know, these are the whole process of testing and all that. And if they do their job efficiently, yeah, so the awarder of the contracts. If the Ministry of Finance or Ministry of Finance. But generally, I think at the government level, Public Work Department, JKR, okay, will be in charge for the major projects. So they will monitor the progress. All right. Okay, why MR2 took so many years to complete? Oh, that one is years ago. And then what happened? I think there is issues when the project completed, then still cannot be used because the project cannot be I think there was a delay in handover. Okay, because definitely, you know, before the handover to the government, the facilities, they must make sure that all contract must be complied with. I think maybe there are issues in that. And at the end, there was they have to fix to make sure that, because there were cracks, if I'm not mistaken. So in terms of safety and but definitely the construction not following, but somehow they have a remedy for that. Okay, I think those bridges, the elevated highways, because MR2, if you look at the stretch, most part of the MR2 is elevated highways, they call it. Elevated means they use bridges. Okay, it's all hang in the air, and so maybe definitely in terms of they're not following the design in terms of construction. So I think they need to rectify. Okay, that's one. So that's why you can see how important it is. Once the job is being done, the certification process, if a progress payment need to be made, must be done properly. Okay, because if you look at bridges and also highways, it will also relate to the safety of the people. Okay, because in the construction projects, generally safety is the utmost important. Sir, I believe that some government projects are not efficient and underutilized. So how government handle about it? I mean, definitely these are the responsibility of the controlling officers, the top management. If they plan, they must use. Okay, so they do not. I mean, these are responsibilities of the incumbents. So how government handle about it? Okay, they should utilize one way to another. Okay, if the facility is already provided, then definitely, okay, there are two ways to look at it. One is if the supplies not following the specifications, then the mistake is by the suppliers. Of course, the supplier will bear the cost. Okay, but if the mistake, all services are basically following the contracts, so not the mistake by the suppliers, then of course government have to honor the payments. The issue is if it is underutilized, so they must find ways to use them, or maybe okay, if the agency itself cannot use, they can also offer the facilities for other use, for other agencies to use, or they can also privatize, okay, outsource to generate income. Okay, and so how the government handle about it? Yeah, so that's why planning is important. The approval process by itself, it's not easy. If you look at URA, for instance, to get a new facility, let's say now we have a new facility for, new buildings for KICT. I think the justification must be very strong because we have new faculty. That's why we get the new buildings for the kuliah. Because previously ICT was sharing with kuliah. Then before, I think they used some facilities in the center buildings before they move for their own facility. So justification is important because it's not easy to get funding from the government for government agencies. Even nowadays, if you look at our facility, our kuliah facilities, right? So from time to time, we also request the university and then definitely to the government so that we have that kind of renovation so that we can improve our facilities. See, still, we don't receive any news yet. Okay. Other question? Okay, if no questions, I think I end this session. And if you before I complete, okay, there have been a few questions by different groups regarding the assignments. Okay, particularly okay, how to go about it. I just give a general comment. Because I just maybe share what I've been shared with other groups that have a specific consultation session with me. Okay, right. Definitely, you have to identify the problems. So there must be public service problems. And then from there, you discard the problems as much as you can based on the availability of the information through online. Okay, or maybe you can have a hard copy, whatever, from interview. I don't limit your creativity, and then you need to evaluate. Okay, you discuss the problems and you have to evaluate. So this evaluation, including what has been done by the government, national government, or the government entities that you are examining, either in Malaysia or outside. Okay, so but when you examine, because sometimes, of course, you can focus in one entity, but when you're discussing for evaluation of the issue, some problem may focus on multiple entities. I think it's good for you to be able to identify what are the relevant agencies, but more deeply that you evaluate one agency. Okay, what has been done, what else can be done. Okay, so so try to be as thorough as possible. Okay, in terms of recommendation or solutions, so that's why you need to give recommendations in the context of the understanding of the problems. Okay, what happened based on your evaluations of the current solutions, existing solutions, and then before you because the solutions still we have problems. Huh? Okay, I think the group was talking about water pollution. Okay, so your water pollution, in Selangor, for instance, okay, massive problems, right? Part of the solutions that you can recommend, okay, you can look at based on the technology, based on your understanding of the issues, okay, you can look at other countries, but the solution must be in context. Huh? So I give example of, you cannot, okay, after you discuss all the problems, and suddenly your solutions just like, the solutions for fever. Huh? All fever, the solutions is to take paracetamol or Panadol. So will you like that kind of solution? Yes or no? All fever, will you like that kind of medicine or prescription? All fever, prescription for all fever is Panadol or paracetamol.
No.
No, isn't it? No, yeah. Because ideally, when you meet experts or you meet doctors, you explain to them all the symptoms. And of course, when he prescribe, he cannot just prescribe Panadol. Otherwise, you go in, to the shop and buy Panadol, isn't it? So you put into context, okay? So what is the best? As much as you can. I do understand now the limitations of COVID and all that, limitations for you for mobility. I do understand all. But as much as you can, you try to bring that. Even I mentioned to the group that if after all the hard work for you to develop the solutions, if you think that your solution is viable and good, you can voice this to local council or to local representative for them to bring forward to the government. Why not? If you can prove that all your solutions can be bring forward to the government, right? And either through email and then good response. Okay, I definitely I give you marks as well. As an example, I don't put that as a must. To show that when you try to deliver this, okay, you take all the necessary exercise to make sure that you have that you demonstrate your understandings and ability to develop the relevant solutions. Okay. But as I said, okay, do that with enjoyment so that you learn something. Okay, so do not make this as if not achievable, something that is achievable for you, okay, for your groups. Okay, is it okay?
Okay, sir.
All right. So with that, I end this session with wabillahi taufiq hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And if anyone wants to ask questions, I will stay back. Okay, so I end this session.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.